Good evening, everyone. My name is Paul, and I'm just going to walk you through old age security in terms of the pension plan, in terms of just the overall sustainability, just give you a little bit more analysis around a possible change in policy. So, my disclaimer here is in general is the same typically when I do these presentations. It's my one view based on all the data available, the public data that's available from government websites, to give you a perspective as we move forward in assessing the value of a program change and its impact on the overall taxation and program spending. This is a little bio about me. I've been working about 25 years in experience in the academia, industry, as well as financial solutions. So my agenda is I'll tell you what OAS is, I'll tell you what life expectancies are, payments, just the overall assessment of the program. Basically, the government created a supplemental program to help support those people that are on Canadian Pension Plan, as well as give them additional retirement. So the OAS has multiple components to it. It has guaranteed income supplement, so those people that are low income have the ability to bring up their income a little bit more to support it. So it's actually an additional level of funding for retirees, and that's something to keep in perspective. It wasn't designed like CPP to be the only source of retirement, but it is supplemental, and that's the key point. And it is paid out of general revenue, which is another thing that I will drive as well. So let's look at factors here. When OAS and CPP were coming into play as social programs, the life expectancy at the time was people didn't live past maybe 75 years. So if your retirement age is 65, you're only really living 10 years past that retirement. So at that time, when they looked at these programs, they were sustainable at that time in terms of the overall lifestyle and what's happening in terms of healthy lifestyles and just the overall flow of people as they developed over the years. But what we've seen now, and the tendency now, is people are living a lot longer. Therefore, it puts more pressure on programs like retirement and healthcare to find out the best mix to support those programs to make sure they're sustainable. It's easy on a policy statement to say that you want to make changes, but you have to look at the overall scheme on the cost and what makes sense. Now this shows you the maximum payout, and usually these things are indexed by inflation, so there's adjustments to it, and it shows you what gets paid out by spouse and different parts of the program. Again, it looks like a small amount, and that's what's played on by the media, but the reality is it's only one piece of the puzzle. The program itself cost, basically, if you look at the annual government financial statements, it's costing about $36 billion each year, and it's growing quicker than GDP. So if your GDP is really driven by economic condition, that's your taxation base, then you have to kind of look at ways to rein in the cost of these programs and look at how you're going to support them to make sure they're sustainable. And that's what this is really doing here. So if we talk about a policy change, okay, and Stephen Harper brought this in the mid to start it around a particular period of time to get some cost constraints in here. If we move it back to 65, it will cost the government on an annual basis about $11 billion. Okay, so how are you going to make up that in general revenue? Well, you're going to have to look at things: hiking personal income tax, hiking consumption taxes, cutting program spending, or hiking corporate taxes, because that's the base of your tax. So if you're going to make up this shortfall $11 billion, where is it going to come from? And that's no discussion from government to say a clear pattern of how this money is going to be made up. And that's something that needs to be discussed, because any sort of increase taxation is going to put the burden on the younger generation to make up those deficits. So that's something that's basically not discussed. Now, Mercer Group does an annual assessment of pensions, and if you look at where Canada is, Canada's done quite well in terms of its overall pensions, in terms of CPP, guaranteed income supplement, old age securities, as well as looking at the tax-free savings accounts, different options to help people prepare better for retirement. So that's not necessarily discussed, because what a lot of people are doing on policy is trying to say the government will take care of you from cradle to grave. The reality is government has a role as part of the solution, but it also has to encourage people to start planning for retirement at a younger age, doing more financial planning and all that. They also have to look at to make sure these programs are sustainable, that they're there for when people need them the most. So that's key aspects of it. That of a policy then shows you where Canada is. Now if you look at Denmark, that's in the top echelon in terms of the grade. They also have one of the highest cost of livings in the world, so you're paying that price there. Retirees have a fixed income that grows only gradually, so if you've got a high cost of living, that doesn't help those people in those countries, and that's something that's not discussed here. It's easy to throw social program and social money out there, but the reality is you need to be affordable and need to be cost competitive. Canada competes on a global marketplace for its goods and services. Any sort of taxation pushes those costs up of doing business. Pushing those costs up of doing business leads Canada to be less competitive down the road, and also has an impact on GDP growth, which means is if you're not growing your revenues fast enough, you're not going to be able to sustain some of these programs. So that's the key aspect that's not discussed, and this is one of the reasons why I did this quick presentation, is to give you an overview of OAS, that yes, it's a valuable program, but it also needs to be sustainable, and it also needs to align with the reality of the real world. That's why I wanted to kind of do this presentation. Thank you.